that he is very much in favor of, or he is committed, or the United States is committed under his leadership to protect the interests of Israel, right? Okay? So the point is that in every society, you have interest groups that you have to pay attention to. Okay? Especially in a democratic society. Right? And without getting into whether that's good or bad, or whether it's right or wrong, but the point is that your internal your internal dynamics of your nation state affects your foreign policy. And if there happens to be an interest group that is very powerful and can affect whether you get reelected or not, okay, typically you're going to pay attention to that interest group. Okay? So, what's another thing? Let's say, for example, you are, well, what would be another example of an internal kind of characteristic? Guys, you heard of the movie called Wag the Tail? No? What kind of movies you ladies watch? You don't watch movies?
No, we don't like.
Well, you don't watch the kind of movies Professor Roman watches, right? All right. Someone put it in the computer.
Which movie?
It's called Wag the Tail. Or Wag the Dog is one of the other. Wag the Wag the Dog. See this wag? Everybody find it? It's all about a president doing what? During an election period, basically doing what?
Distracts the elector's presence from a scandal.
Well, no, that's the most recent movie. That's actually I saw that on a plane this last week. No, it's you basically create a war during a re-election in order to do what? To kind of affect the mood of the election. Yeah.
That's like what, kind of like Bush when the thing happened with 9/11. Well, he didn't create it, but when 9/11 happened, everyone kind of re-elected him simply
No,
because
I
they were
think
scared.
that would be an unfair thing. I don't think I would say Bush did it for re-election.
No, not he did it, but what I mean is when people are scared, whether you make it or not, but when there's a war happening, people tend to re-elect the same person
Well,
because they're scared of change.
you can affect people's moods by your behavior. So if you scare them you can scare people into submission, right? Okay, so that would be one way of doing it. Okay. All right. So the point is you have the internal characteristics, whether it's the need for resources, whether it's the need for money, whether it's the need for whether it's dealing with electoral politics. Okay, whether it's dealing with the needs of an interest group that has powerful leverage over the national decision-making structure. Those are the examples of internal characteristics. Yeah.
Does that include the elections that we had a couple of weeks ago?
Which election?
The,
In Kuwait?
yeah.
No, I think Kuwait, but that doesn't really affect foreign policy, right? No, it's more of there was a need to basically, things were getting very frustrating, right? There was a tremendous amount of tension, and there needed to be some sort of release, right? And that's what the elections, I think, one could say that's part of the reason for the election. There's a lot of people that are upset, okay? But here we're talking about your internal makeup affecting foreign policy, all right? And that would be internal characteristics. Whether you need resources, need water, go to war. That's an internal characteristic, okay? Appeasing an interest group would be an internal characteristic. What about actor leadership? What would that be?
The state?
Actor. Now, we're talking actor now, not so much in the nation state, but actor in terms of, you could talk about actor, well, when I say actor leadership, you could be the state, okay, fair enough, but we're also, what did we say in terms of the transnational actors? One of the transnational actors were, what's the last one there? Individuals, okay? So you could have an individual who takes basically a very proactive role in trying to affect the international community, just as you could, and which really may not so much be in an international community, it'd be more regional when you think about it, just as you'd have a nation state taking a leadership role to kind of affect international politics, okay? So, all right, now, the book gives conceptualizes this funnel, all right? And what it basically says is you have global conditions, you have actors' internal characteristics, you have different nation states and or individuals who are basically leaders, okay? So these inputs kind of go through the funnel, right? So you have the context. And you'll notice that what you have here is you have a context. Think of it in terms of, now, this is a three-dimensional object, right? Well, actually, it's not, it's two-dimensional. All right, it's two-dimensional. You guys know the difference between two-dimensional and three-dimensional?
Yeah.
All right, so basically when you have global conditions, this would be the context. This would be the context, right? And then you have all the different internal characteristics. So you have all the different internal characteristics within the international arena. So you have global conditions affecting the international arena. You have basically actors' internal characteristics. That is basically factors within the country that are affecting reality. Okay. And then basically you have leaders, and that is that the interaction with the different actors, some of which are followers, some of which are essentially, you have coalition building, different groups, right? So all of these things affect the policy-making process. And then this leads to a decision, a policy decision, okay? And every policy decision is an act. All actions have a cost. All costs are opportunity costs, right? So each decision generates an outcome, right? And every outcome generates costs as well as benefits, some of which are expected, others are unexpected, right? So the expected, unexpected costs then generate the feedback loop, so to speak, which then goes back into the funnel. So that you have this kind of circular process that they're trying to explain. All right? So when we talk about what factors influence international or decision making in the international arena, there's three factors, okay? Lead to a decision. Your decision becomes the output. The output affects the reality, right? And then there's that kind of a feedback. So there's learning that takes place. Everybody with me so far? And that's really the concept that they're trying to conceptualize for you. All right? Now, something that I've mentioned in the past, I used the word a rational process. Okay? And when I talk about rational process, I don't necessarily view the rational process as being purely deterministic. You guys know exactly. You guys have an idea what you have, and do you understand what I just said? Rational process being deterministic. When I say instrumental decision making, when I say communicative rationality, you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Okay, fair enough. You shouldn't. Why? Because this is IDST 101. Okay? If this was IDST 400, you guys better have you darn straight. You should know what those things are. Now, so when we talk about a rational process, typically when we talk about a rational process is that we have essentially this relation between means and ends. The end is the objective, that's to solve a problem. All right? The means becomes the decision on how to solve the problem, right? So let's say you have a democratic society where you have foreign policy, let's say in the case of the United States, typically foreign policy is under the domain of the president, okay? He has his coterie of experts and they work together to formulate foreign policy, right? But there's a check and balance on foreign policy, isn't there? And what are the three branches of government in the United States?
The
Judiciary. All decisions have to be what? Constitutional, right? And the judiciary ensures that the decisions that a country makes are all constitutional, whether it's foreign policy or whatever policy it is, it has to be done in accordance with the judiciary, right? What's the other one? You have the executive and you have the executive. You have Congress, right? So you have the executive, you have Congress, and then you have the judiciary, right? Everybody kind of expects that whenever a decision is formulated and implemented in the United States, to follow a particular process, right? That becomes what? That rational process. It's a merger of means and ends. Okay? Everybody with me so far? So when we talk about policy making, it's a rational choice. Yeah?
About the rational choice, is it more like maximizing your benefits and minimizing your?
Well, when you use the word rational and it's deterministic, yeah. Okay? In the sense that, rational choice is basically a neoclassical term in terms of economics, where your decisions are always optimal and they're always designed to minimize cost or maximize benefit, right? Which is what you're talking about, correct? Okay? But that's not really how I'm talking about here, because I don't want to emphasize instrumental rationality, because you can have what's called communicative rationality. Now, I mentioned I made a distinction between the two rationalities a couple of minutes ago. And this is basically the difference. That is that when you talk about rationality as a deterministic, or if you're rational in a deterministic way, basically what you're saying, you're basically following this procedure. Problem identification, goal selection, measuring, comparing and contrasting alternatives, making a decision. Okay, it's a very instrumental-like kind of concept. It's kind of like a computer. All right, everybody with me so far? So what's communicative rationality? Communicative rationality typically doesn't start the analysis with a clear-cut understanding of what people are interacting with each other, defining the problem. Okay? People are interacting with each other, coming up with different solutions to solve the problem that they agree exists. So this is kind of communicative process that goes, a conversation that takes place. All right? And so the decision, at the end of the day, the choice is discovered through the process. You guys with me so far? An instrumental-like approach means the choice is basically exists out of a set of options that you've defined at the beginning of the analysis. Whereas a communicative approach discovers alternatives during the conversation. Okay? Now, this is outside the scope of this class, but what I want to emphasize here is that when we talk about rational choice in this class, it's really just the process of connecting means and ends. Okay? And as long as your means make sense with your objective, then it's a rational choice. For example, if you want to kill yourself, and you stand in front of a train and you die, have you behaved rationally?
No,
What's your objective?
it is that
Why is it rational?
because, you.
Your objective is what?
She made her decision by herself.
Okay, but that's right. But what's the objective? I want to kill myself. I stand in front of a train. I get splattered. Okay, I die. What's the objective?
To die.
Okay, to die, but to kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
So now you have different means, right? You have different ways of killing yourself. And the alternative that this person would select in my example is what? Standing in front of a train. Are they behaving rationally?
Yes,
Yes.
because they're doing what they want.
So you're connecting the means with the ends. Got it? You understand, ladies? That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. That's what now of course that's an oversimplified kind of example, because in some societies the idea of killing yourself never enters into the equation. Why? Because it's, let's say, against your religion to kill yourself, for example. So that's not even an option. Now we're talking about cultural differences, right? That is, certain types of objectives aren't even on the table, because it would go against the whole way of the way you look at the world, right? Just as it comes to, say, certain decisions, so certain types of means that you may select. The kinds of means you may select in one country may not be plausible in another country, right? But the point is trying to connect the means with the ends and the ends with the means. That's what I mean by rationality.